Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our lair, the den of controversy. Welcome. And today I have a very controversial topic for you. I would say, how are you doing? But, you all know that I don't care. Today we are going to be discussing J.K. Rowling and the Hogwarts game later. But first we're going to get into J.K. Rowling, because up until this point, because I just now did my research, I did not know anything about J.K. Rowling. I was never into Harry Potter. I know that some people hate her, but I never looked up why, because honestly, I don't give a shit, right? I mean, some of us are all in that position. But I've been hearing a lot of things about this Hogwarts game and some controversy with that. So I thought that I'd dip my toes in, and see what's actually going on with that. But in order to do that, I needed to go way back. Let me pull up these tweets. J.K. Rowling's tweets, to be specific, because the reason that people say that they hate J.K. Rowling is because she is apparently transphobic, right? And so I have gone through and skimmed her Twitter, the things she tweets. I've gone through and I've looked up specifically what people hate her for saying, and I have some opinions about this. Some of you may not like these opinions, but as most of the OG fans over here know, I don't give a shit what you like or what you don't like, because it's my opinion, and I'm welcome to it, and you're welcome to leave, so I'm just going to state that right off the bat. To get started, I'm just gonna get right into it, because I got a lot of shit to say on this subject. The first list of tweets, this is a Yahoo article about, what did J.K. Rowling say exactly? First, it says that she retweeted an op-ed piece that discussed people who menstruate, apparently taking issue with the fact that the story did not use the word women. People who menstruate, she said, I'm sure there used to be a word for those people. Someone help me out. And she says, like, woman. She proceeds to misspell women a bunch. This, I could see why some people would be a little bit upsetty spaghetti about, because, I mean, there are biological women who have gone into menopause or have issues, with their reproductive system, and they don't menstruate. There are biological women who don't menstruate, right? So I can see how some people would be upset about that. And the op-ed, and I will clip it here for you. Wait, actually, yes, that was her. And she said, opinion, creating a more equal post-COVID-19 world for people who menstruate. She's specifically trying to say biological women. Even though I can say that she should have worded that a bit better. Like, maybe just saying biological women would have been easier than saying people who menstruate. My green screen is getting fucky. I'm sorry, I'll just have to deal with that today. But she could have worded that a bit better, I suppose. But I know, roundabout what she's trying to say. So I'm not, I'm not too mad at it. It's her opinion, right? I mean, she's not saying anything overtly transphobic. She's not saying that trans people don't exist or they don't deserve rights. She's saying that she wants to create an equal post-COVID-19 world specifically for biological women. She's nowhere in there is she stating that trans women don't deserve equal rights post-COVID-19. She's not saying anything like that, although I can see why some people would be mad at that tweet. But that, honestly, in my opinion, is the only tweet that I have seen from her. And maybe I'm missing one, but I like to think that I've done my research on this. That is the only tweet that I have seen that could be interpreted as being transphobic by somebody who has at least more than 2 brain cells, right? Next, says the initial tweet garnered a lot of backlash, but the Harry Potter author did not relent and wrote about her views in more detail, so she clarifies that tweet more. And she said, if sex isn't real, and by sex I'm assuming that she's saying gender and, society viewed gender roles, as in, like, sex. If sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't hate speak to speak the truth. Which, ironically, nowadays, speaking the truth and backing, using science to back up your opinions can be considered by some people as hate speech, unfortunately, when they, think that science isn't real, because those people exist, unfortunately. The idea that women like me, who've been empathetic to trans people for decades, feeling kinship because they're vulnerable in the same way as women, i.e. to male violence, hate trans people because they think that sex is real and has lived consequences is a nonsense. And she's basically saying here that me stating that there is a difference between trans women and biological women, which there is, and saying there is a difference in like the gender and everything between men, trans women, and biological women, and saying that there is no difference and that sex isn't real, which some people do say on the LGBT side of things. She's saying that that is nonsense, and it is nonsense. There is very much a difference between trans women, biological women, and trans men, and biological men, and intersex people. There is very much a real biological and social difference between the two. And pretending that there is none and that everyone is all the same, that is nonsense. Okay, it's nonsense. Somehow she got backlash for that. And I'm pretty sure as I go through this video, I'm going to lose my faith in humanity and probably most of my brain cells being sucked out by whatever mongoloids decided to, you know, jump on this hate bandwagon. And then she continues, she says, I respect every trans person's right to live any way that feels authentic and comfortable to them. I'd march with you if you were discriminated against on the basis of being trans. At the same time, my life has been shaped by being female. I do not believe it is hateful to say so. How is that transphobic? I just, like, can somebody, like, clarify to me, like, how is that transphobic? Saying that she respects every trans person's right to live any way that feels authentic and comfortable to them. That is absolutely fair. And she's saying that she would march with them if they were discriminated against just because they were trans. Also fair. And she is saying, but at the same time, my life has been shaped by being female, specifically biologically female. And she doesn't think that it's hateful to say so. It's not. It's just a fact. If you are a trans woman, your life is shaped by being a trans woman. If you are a biological man, your life has been shaped by being a biological man. That is not transphobic to state so, and if you are, you're fucking delusional. I don't know how else to say that. I was gonna say I'm very sorry, but in reality, I'm not actually very sorry, so I'm gonna take that back. And next, she goes on to say, this isn't an easy piece to write, and to specify, this is on June 10th in 2020. So this has been going on for a few years, apparently. She posted a lengthy post on her website and sent out a tweet that read Turf Wars, apparently. And it says, this isn't an easy piece to write for reasons that will shortly become clear, but I know it is time to explain myself on an issue surrounded by toxicity. I write this without any desire to add to that toxicity. For people who don't know, last December I tweeted my support for Maya Forstater, I think I'm saying that right, a tax specialist who'd lost her job for what were deemed transphobic tweets. She took her case to an employment tribunal, asked the judge to rule on whether or not a philosophical belief that sex is determined by biology is protected in law. So basically saying, she went to a judge and asked, scientifically, you know, sex is, your gender is stated is determined, by biology. By saying your gender is determined by biology, right? Science, a scientific fact, is protected in law, and the judge ruled that it wasn't. So even in the court of law, science is just out the window. Like, even according to a judge, they say science is just not real. I don't have much to comment on that because I feel like if I focus any more on that statement, that I'm going to completely become a vegetable on screen in front of you. And on that fact, there's also another article, too. There's many articles on this, but this one stated, freedom of speech, what did J.K. Rowling say on Twitter about trans rights? And this one, the very first sentence in this article says, in July of 2021, J.K. Rowling claimed she was still receiving backlash and even death threats from her comments. I'm gonna save my thoughts on that for my lead into the Harry Potter Hogwarts game, because I have a lot of opinions on that too, and that kind of ties in, and I don't want to have to repeat myself twice, so I'll save that for later. And it also states later on in this article, and I'm getting some more, tweets from her, and it's actually kind of surprisingly hard to find just a list of all these supposedly terrible things and transphobic things that she has said. So she was also blasted in 2019 for backing a researcher who was fired for tweeting men cannot change into women. So a researcher, not J.K. Rowling, a researcher tweeted that men cannot change into women, and then J.K. Rowling liked and supported that tweet. I don't understand why people are so confused about this. Like, I understand that if you're a transgender, you want to, assimilate and, identify and be recognized as a woman as much as you possibly can. But I hate to break it to you, okay? There is nothing wrong with being transgender, right? I hope you get as comfortable as you can. I wish you all the best in your transition, and you deserve every right that everybody else has, and you deserve to feel comfortable and respected as the gender that you choose to be if you are truly transgender and have been, diagnosed with gender dysphoria. I'm just gonna say that. But if you, down to your chromosomes, are biologically male, it does not matter how many surgeries you get. It does not matter how much makeup you put on. It does not matter if you get vocal feminization surgery, or facial feminization surgery, or top surgery, or bottom surgery. You will never be 100% biologically female. I hate to break it to you. You will always be biologically male. That will never change. You can be as much, as fully transitioned as possible, but your genitals, even if you get bottom surgery, will never be 100% like a female, like a natural born biological woman's genitalia. You will never have a natural vagina that does the natural vagina things. You will never, as a biological man, at least at this point in technology, you will never be able to procreate like a woman. You'll never be able to grow a uterus, just like a trans man will never biologically produce sperm, even if they get bottom surgery. Okay? You will never be, no matter how much you transition, and I know this is hard for some of you to hear, because some of you want so badly to just be a woman 100% or a man 100%, right? I hate to break it to you, all right? But that is just something that you as a trans person will have to deal with, okay? You will never be 100% biologically female or 100% biologically male. There is nothing wrong with being transgender. Just because you're trans and aren't 100% biologically whatever doesn't make you any less of a person. But you have to realize that scientifically and biologically, you will never be 100% a woman if you were a biological man. This scientist tweeted, "Men cannot change into women. It is a biological and scientific fact." And they got fired for tweeting it. Just like I was stating earlier, that tweeting the truth is considered hate speech now. Tweeting a biological fact is considered hate speech right now. Just like a trans woman, you can get top surgery, but you can't, just like you are biologically male, right? You will never get naturally pregnant, right? You will never naturally breastfeed because your boobs are not real. They are fake boobs. You got top surgery. Just like you will never be able to carry a baby in your womb because you do not have the biological parts that a natural biological woman would have. Being transgender, like I have said, and it is ridiculous that I feel like I have to state this a million times to get it through some people's heads, otherwise I'm going to be stated as transphobic. But being transgender is not, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with being transgender. You are not any less of a person if you're transgender, but don't go deluding yourself into thinking that no matter if you get all these surgeries and all these, procedures, that I'm gonna be 100% a woman. You will never be 100% of a completely different gender. It is scientifically impossible. And yet some people, a researcher, can tweet that men cannot change into women. He's not saying that trans people, don't exist. He's not saying that trans women, don't deserve trans rights or they shouldn't transition. He's not stating that. He's saying that at a biological level, a man cannot change into a woman. It is not a video game character select screen where you can pay for a microtransaction to swap your gender. It doesn't work like that. I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry, but I'm sorry for myself that I feel like I have to say this because some people think that it's a fact. And also, I was gonna make another video. I will make another video about this extensively, but I also just want to say as a little tidbit, like a little sneak peek into the next video that I'm going to make, the next conversation we're going to have. I don't understand the thought process between people who state trans women are women and trans men are men. I understand the thought behind it, and that they want to be accepting, right? And they want to say that, I accept you for who you are, trans women are women, but they're not. Trans women are trans women. Trans men are trans men. Erasing the trans part from the woman, from trans women, erasing the trans part of that statement, the prefix, is not productive to acceptance or whatever you're trying to go for, because no matter how much you want to paint it, there are differences. There are biological differences, just like dating preferences. Some people are allowed to not want to date a trans person, and it doesn't make them transphobic. I hate to break it to you. It doesn't make them an awful person for having a preference. Just like you can have a preference for somebody who's girly, somebody who likes heavy metal. You can have a preference for men who are super tall. You can have a preference for men who maybe you don't care if they're tall, you're short. You can have a preference if they're trans. Or if you want to have kids one day, you want a partner who can biologically reproduce with you. Those are called preferences. And erasing the prefix trans before trans women is not helping you. In what sense is erasing the, it's like, are you ashamed of it being there? Are you ashamed to call yourself a trans woman, which is why you say trans women are women? I just... People go so far into trying to be accepting that they end up going too far, and they end up in the opposite end, and they end up being, accidentally unaccepting. I'm not wording that correctly, but I'm too lazy to try and think of a better way to say it. There is nothing wrong with being transgender. There's nothing wrong with being a trans woman. But stating that trans women are women is inaccurate. Trans women have every right to be accepted as the gender that they wish to present as. That is a fact. But there is and always will be a difference between biological women, biological men, and trans women and trans men. There's nothing to be ashamed of those differences. But stating that trans women are women and trans men are men and erasing the trans prefix in front of it is not doing anybody any favors. I'm sorry. And companies firing people for stating this is not helping anyone either. Because you can tweet something, even if it's an opinion, even if it is a scientific fact, and if it goes against what the big company agenda of everyone is, of acceptance and all of this bullshit, then you can get fired for it. You can lose your job. I want to go back to, the 40s. Honestly, I swear to God. So, moving on from that subject, so I don't daddle too much on that, they also tweeted, what did people say in response to J.K. Rowling's tweet? Rowling has said that she has received rape and death threats from hundreds of trans activists. She called out a troll who told her, I wish you a very nice pipe bomb in the mailbox. She replied, when you can't get a woman sacked, arrested, or dropped by her publisher, and canceling her only made her book sales go up, there's really only one place to go. And I really respect that too, because people have tried to cancel J.K. Rowling for having an opinion that is backed by scientific fact. Nothing that I have seen her say has been transphobic at all. Like, nothing she has never tweeted that trans people don't exist. She has never said that trans people don't deserve rights, that trans people shouldn't transition, that it's against God, or whatever the religious fanatics say that are trying to cancel trans people. She has never said that. But yet people are still trying to cancel her and call her transphobic. I'm sorry, I agree with J.K. Rowling. We kind of have a bit of the same, stance on things. There's nothing wrong with being transgender, right? And I support people who identify as transgender and they want to, proceed on their journey and be respected as the gender identity that they wish to identify as. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But don't go too far into delusional territory and pretend that there's absolutely no difference between biological women and trans women when there clearly is. Don't... She also, one thing that I do agree with, there's another statement that she tweeted about bathrooms, right? Because that's an issue nowadays. So it said, one follower asked, is this still because of her comments about the safety of women in toilets and changing rooms if men can use them by simply stating that they identify as women? So apparently she tweeted something about women's safety in restrooms if anyone on Earth can just identify as a woman and use the women's restroom. And then Rowling said, yes, but now hundreds of trans activists have threatened to beat, rape, assassinate, and bomb me. I've realized this movement poses no risk to women whatsoever. So yeah, by trans activists, the supposed good guys, have been threatening to assault and assassinate her. And they think that they're the good guys. I'm still saving that for later. I'm still... Talk about it now. Saving it for later, because I have some stuff to say about that. And so to clarify, I've said, what did J.K. Rowling publish about speaking on sex and gender issues? So what did she actually say? She said she has a multitude of reasons for her concern about the new trans activism. She worried about the effects of trans rights movement having on education and safeguarding children. There's a lot of stuff about freedom of speech and an explosion in young women wishing to transition, and also about the... I haven't read this paragraph yet, so let me redo this. She said that she was interested in freedom of speech and concerned about the huge explosion in young women wishing to transition, and also about the increasing numbers who seem to be detransitioning. I understand. J.K. Rowling, I get you. You're getting hate because you're mentioning detransitioners and how young women shouldn't probably be transitioning medically when they're still going through puberty because it leads to an astounding number of people who detransition. I get you, because I get the same mongoloids who comment on my channel and saying that detransitioners don't exist and that I'm just an idiot because clearly I don't exist, apparently. I get it. Another thing that I do not disagree with. Another thing that she has stated that is not incorrect and is not transphobic. I'm just gonna leave that at that. She states, I know transition will be a solution for some gender dysphoric people. So she has stated that there is nothing wrong with transitioning if it is what is going to work for you. That is not transphobic. But she states, although I'm also aware that through extensive research that studies have consistently shown that between 60 to 90% of gender dysphoric teens will grow out of their dysphoria, and if they transition, will be detransitioning. What about that is transphobic? She has research and studies that back her point of view. And yet people say once again that science isn't real and that she's transphobic. Because pretending that detransitioners don't exist is apparently the correct course of action. Because God forbid you say anything against the transgender community that people don't like. And one of her final reasons challenging the new wave of trans activism, she said she wants trans women to be safe, but also doesn't want to make natal girls and women less safe. And she specifies, when you throw open the doors of bathrooms and changing rooms to any man who believes or feels he's a woman, as I've said, gender confirmation certificates may now be granted without any need for surgery or hormones, then you open the door to any and all men who wish to come inside. That is the simple truth. And I have talked to a few people about this, and there is an astounding amount of people who state that that just doesn't exist. That no men would pretend to be trans or would go into a trans restroom just to assault women or anything like that. And people are saying that it doesn't exist yet. I went on her Twitter, and one thing that I really respect about J.K. Rowling is she lists her source. She got her receipts, right? She states that trans people, or people identifying as trans, I'm not going to state that they're actually trans or not, but trans, or people identifying as transgender to get into women's only spaces and hurting women, people say that it doesn't exist, but then she got the receipts to back it up. And for example, on her Twitter, she retweeted Women's Voices. This is also happening in the US. An inmate described as personally seeing the rape of another female inmate by a trans-identified male. The victim was barely conscious, and less than 1 hour later, she was taken out of her cell on a stretcher. And this is not the only article that is on her Twitter if you go through and scroll it. And to think that there are people in the LGBT community that are threatened by these kinds of posts, right? Because shit like this exposes the dangers that people are facing when we just let anyone and everyone into whatever bathroom that our children have access to, and they don't like it because it basically says that some people are not trans. Some people abuse the system to get access to where people are vulnerable so they can hurt people. They don't like that. The LGBT community, a lot of them don't like that because it threatens their whole agenda of accept everyone. And so people go out of their way to say that it doesn't exist. That no trans person or no man is going to identify as transgender to get access to spaces to hurt women, when it's literally right here. It's literally right here, and there's all sorts of articles about it. She has retweeted them, and yet people pretend that it doesn't exist. And they think that her tweeting that makes her transphobic. Huh? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. And so on top of the controversial shit, I decided to just take a stroll through her Twitter, right? Maybe I'm missing something, right? Maybe there is something that she's tweeting that is horrible and I just don't understand it, right? J.K. Rowling, a pinned tweet right now. Men defining what a woman is and what a woman should and shouldn't fear, what women should and shouldn't say, what rights women should be fine with giving up, and of course what constitutes real misogyny. Get a bloody mirror. That's real misogyny looking right back at you. That's fucking facts. Slapping a like on that. That's one. Let's just keep track. One, not transphobic. There's also a pinned tweet that she states, Sturgeon's opponents are wholly entitled to scream, "We told you so," because they did, and then they were treated as though they must be bigots. And so here we are, what a disgrace it all is. And this is in reference to thetimes.co.uk tweeted how a trans prisoner fiasco is down to Sturgeon. There's no one else to blame. I'm assuming that's what it says. Nicola Sturgeon's government sent a male rapist to a female prison because he said he was a woman. And yet and I'm mostly talking to the loud minority, the obnoxious people in the trans community who pretend that none of this exists. And you state that this doesn't exist, that there's no scenario in which a man would pretend to be a trans woman to gain access to places where women are vulnerable. And you pretend that it doesn't exist. This is why some people do not want anyone and everyone being able to walk in to women's changing rooms, to bathrooms where our children go and have access to. And I understand it. I still don't think the solution is excluding trans women from women's restrooms. I think there is a happy middle ground that we can find where it's not completely excluding trans people from bathrooms, but it's not just let anyone and everyone in. That is not the solution. Another one that is not transphobic. Oh, look, and then there's another one. There's another tweet. She says, I don't know about you, but excluding women from women's prison just because they've got penises, male pattern baldness, and have committed a couple rapes seems awfully turfy to me. Apparently that's what people are telling her, that she's a turf because she doesn't think that trans men, or men who identify as trans women, who have committed domestic violence and rape crimes should not be allowed in prison. It should not be allowed in women's prisons. Apparently that's turfy. If that's turfy, then I'm clearly a turf. And the article she lists says, does Scotland's First Minister believe all trans women are women? And it says the Scottish government has just implemented an effective ban on trans prisoners who've committed sexual and violent crimes against women from being moved to a women-only prison. Thank fucking God. Thank God. Because, you know what, I shouldn't have to explain that, so I'm not going to. If you don't get it, then you just need to go read a book. So that's number 3. There's also this tweet that says, I don't know about you lot, but I'd find consistently being told that I've never done anything for women or children in my life less funny if it wasn't coming from people who seem to be yelling bigot on Twitter, make them humanitarian relief workers. SJW, social justice workers. Or, yeah, who think that just because they tweet, you're a bigot, at just anyone and everyone who shares a different opinion than them makes them humanitarian relief workers. I would love to actually see somebody's resume that states, I attack people on Twitter because they have different opinions than me. I'm a humanitarian relief worker. I would honestly love to see that. So, I mean, that's 3, and, like, you can scroll, and scroll, and scroll. And she even she even screenshots stuff that she is being told. People that are tweeting shit at her, saying, you're an abject failure. People who are tweeting hateful shit towards J.K. Rowling. And this is kind of going to segue into the whole Hogwarts game controversy that we're talking about, too. And this is going to be a very long video. I'm very sorry about that. Well, not really, because it needs to be said. But, you know, you get it. You get it. Right? And you can scroll. And I'm scrolling. And scrolling. And scrolling. And there's nothing that is objectively transphobic. She's calling for the protection of biological women. How is that transphobic? Can somebody explain to me? Because nowhere has she ever stated, and I'm gonna take a shot every time that I have to explain this multiple times in this video, but she has never stated that trans people don't exist, that trans people don't deserve rights, that they're delusional, that they are just crazy, you know, and that trans women they're just, you know, fakes and they don't deserve any rights, and, you know, stuff that you see from actual trans people. There are actual trans people who have tweeted awful and degrading things. Or not trans people, sorry. There are actual transphobic people who have tweeted degrading things and awful things about the LGBT community and transgender people. And those people have an issue. Those people are transphobic. J.K. Rowling is not one of them. Everyone, I really honestly feel like everyone has just jumped on the bandwagon of hate J.K. Rowling. Oh, J.K. Rowling's transphobic. And fucking nobody is doing actual research and looking up what she has actually said. Because if they did, I honest to God believe that there would be less people who think that she's this awful person. Because I'm looking at what she's saying, and it is not at all what I expected to read. I had heard so much hate about J.K. Rowling and how she's so transphobic. I was really prepared to read some shocking things, but all of this is just shit that I agree with. None of it is wrong. It's just stuff that people don't want to hear, right? It doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make it hateful, right? Some people just don't like to hear that their extreme opinions aren't necessarily correct. Some people don't like to hear that, no, you cannot 100% be a biological woman if you were born a biological man. Sorry, your chromosomes will never change. Some people don't like to hear that. And yeah, it sucks that your head is buried so far up the LGBT ass that you can't stand to listen to scientific fact without having a meltdown, right? That is unfortunate for you, you know? But nothing she has stated is transphobic at all. It's not. People like to pretend it is, but it's not. And there's so many people on the internet who have an issue with just seeing how, or their friend says, oh my god, J.K. Rowling is so transphobic. And you're like, oh my god, really? And be like, yeah, she tweeted awful shit. And be like, oh wow, that's awful. I hate her. when they never even looked for themselves. They never did their own research to see what she actually said. And now just everyone is jumping on this bandwagon of hate J.K. Rowling when what has she actually said? What has she actually said? And that is a problem. And I think that is about all I have to say on J.K. Rowling. Yeah, support her here. Do your own research. Fact check, all that bullshit before you just jump on a hate bandwagon of someone who doesn't deserve it. Next subject. This Hogwarts game. For those of you who don't know, there is a video game come out. It's a Hogwarts game. It's basically Skyrim on shrooms, like magic Skyrim is what I'm told. I have not played it yet myself, but that game is released. And there is, and again, I'm mostly talking about the loud minority of the LGBT community, because I recognize there are a lot of trans people who are very reasonable, who are not crazy, who are not assholes, who do not support all of the harassment going around, and y'all are the real G's. Y'all are epic. I love you. All right. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the loud minority of people who are harassing people online. And if you are one of those, you know who you are, and I'm talking about you. I just want you to specifically know, I'm talking about you. But there is a game called Hogwarts. Like I said, it's come out, and people are boycotting it. I'm going to use that term very loosely, because it's associated with J.K. Rowling, I guess, even though it's not even that associated, and I don't even think she has that much to do with it, but just because it's in the realm of Harry Potter and vaguely associated with J.K. Rowling, people have decided to boycott it and harass people who are playing that game and streaming it on Twitch. There was an article that I saw about a streamer who was streaming the Hogwarts game and was bullied and harassed to the point of, I think his girlfriend had a breakdown and started crying and sobbing on Twitch until they had to end their stream or something. It's not that I'm surprised. It's just every day it seems to get worse and worse. And part of me hopes that someday these people will see sense, and that something will put an end to all of this hatred going around. But then naturally it doesn't. It just gets worse and worse, and then my brain just wants to implode. I have a PSA. And this is how I'm going to wrap up my video. If you... I'm trying to find a way to state this properly that properly expresses my feelings. It blows my mind how there are lots of people, mostly in the LGBT community, people who claim themselves to be allies and everything, who, if they find someone who has a different opinion than them, or someone who likes something different than them, like somebody who wants to just enjoy a Harry Potter game like Hogwarts, or somebody like J.K. Rowling who supports a lot of science stuff but also supports trans people, in general, people who have a different opinion than them. And it blows my mind how these people can tweet things like delete yourself. I hope you get assaulted. You're a disgrace of a human being. If I saw you in person, I would run you over with my car. I hope you choke on a dick and die. All of these god-awful things, like drink bleach, and just this terrible shit. And it blows my mind how these trans activists can say things like that to someone who just has a different opinion than them. And then they can still delude themselves into thinking that they're the good guys. I mean, in any scenario, right? If you tell someone to delete themselves, you are automatically the bad guy. It doesn't matter who or what opinion they have. You should never be telling someone to kill themselves. Never. It's unacceptable, okay? And you are automatically the bad guy, especially when it's just over a different opinion, okay? And in what world do these fucking mongoloids think that, oh, this person has a different opinion than me. I want to change their mind because we want support and we want people to be accepting of us as the gender we want. And so your first thought when you're approaching someone who has a different opinion than you, the first thing you do is to tell them to eat shit and die? Is to say, I hope you delete yourself, drink bleach? That's what you resort to. It's like these people find people that they, like these trans activists, find people online that have a different opinion than them. And even just people who are just playing the Hogwarts game. And they get it into their head that just because these people have a different opinion than them makes them an awful person. Oh, this person is playing the Hogwarts game. They're terrible. They're unsupportive. And they get what? You getting into a competition to see who can be a worse person? I don't understand. If this was my first experience with the transgender community, if this was the only thing that I had seen of the LGBT community and trans activists was all the hateful shit that they are telling people, congratulations, I would be transphobic too. If that was the only thing that I had seen from the transgender community and I didn't know that that was not a representation of your entire fucking group, I would be transphobic too, because the shit that you guys are saying is unacceptable. It's completely and utterly unacceptable, and it is never going to change anyone's mind. The people who consider them trans activists, right, who are going around and harassing people and telling them awful things and bullying people essentially off of the internet for only having a different opinion than them. You are the reason, I hope you know this, but you are the reason why some people will never accept you. You are the reason why a lot of people will always be transphobic. Okay? Because somehow you guys get it into your head that the solution to end bullying is to bully them harder. I'm sorry, that is not how it works. You are never going to get people to accept you by telling them to kill themselves. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, it's really kind of hard for me to believe that people are saying this and then thinking that they're the good guys. You are never a good guy for telling someone online to drink bleach. You are never a good guy for telling someone to KYS. It's not a thing. And you are at the scum of the earth, and you need to delete your accounts, alright, and get off the fucking internet and go seek therapy and mental health, because clearly you have some unresolved issues that you were taking out on everyone else, and this shit is just, I don't know, it's just unbelievable. J.K. Rowling, the Hogwarts game, they all have my support, because at the end of the day, it's not transphobic, and these people who think that it is transphobic and are boycotting a game just for its association with someone are the biggest set of Neanderthals I think that I have ever seen. Yeah. Don't spread hate. Fighting with fire is never gonna put out the flame. I've been thinking about this all fucking day, and it just boggles me how these people can think that, oh, this person is hateful, so in order to get them to not be hateful and see my side, I'm going to be more hateful towards them than they are. I see this fire, and I don't like it. So I'm gonna put the fire out by pouring more gasoline. Go back to school. Please. Or actually, in fact, don't. Maybe we should just let Darwinism take effect and let some of these people who are saying this awful shit just, yeet themselves off the edge of the planet. Sometimes I do wish that the earth was flat so we could just, have like a little assembly line to yeet every god-awful, toxic person off of the internet. I mean, I know this video is really long, but god fucking damn. I mean, if you look at people who are playing the Hogwarts game, and more specifically, since J.K. Rowling is so hated, if you look and you scroll at J.K. Rowling's Twitter, you scroll it down and you look all around, on all the stuff that she has tweeted and the stuff that she has said. And then you turn to the other side and you look at the tweets of people who tweet at her. And you look at what people are saying to her. Specifically her haters. Which one of those groups, J.K. Rowling or trans activists, which one of those people is telling the other to delete themselves? Spoiler alert, it's not J.K. Rowling. It's you. You trans activists. Like, I mean, it's clear. I don't know how people delude themselves into thinking that saying something like that is a good idea. You should be ashamed of yourself. And I'm probably going to end this video here because I could just rant on and on and on about how some people are absolutely fucking retarded on the internet. Like, it's obnoxious. And if you want to, I'm just going to end this by saying, if you want to get the Hogwarts game, go for it. Don't let nobody stop you. If you want to stream it on Twitch, the second you get a hate comment, turn it to emote only. All right? Don't let people bully you into not enjoying the things you want to enjoy. Okay? It's these people, as loud as some of them are, they have no brain cells and they have no effect on you and what you want to enjoy. So please don't listen to them. Like I always say, stand up for what you believe in. Be the villain, all right? Say what you want to say. As long as it's not, you know, telling people to go delete themselves, right? Because we don't support that, right? We don't support that. I gotta end this video, I swear to God. Let me know what you guys think. Shit's insane. Goodbye.